Active in the entrepreneurial and investment space for over 25 years. I'm in the Chicago area, and currently I do a couple things. I run Propellant Ventures, which is a early stage fund here in the Chicago area. We invest in B2B tech industries, such as early seed stage, such as fintech, ed tech, supply chain, future work, logistics, health tech. They also run the Chicago chapter of the Founder Institute, which is the world's largest pre-seed technology accelerator. Do a number of other things, but I'll stop there. So happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, Jason. And then Whay, want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. So my name is Whay. I'm currently based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, but along the journey, I've started VC in Asia and then moved along to the US market. So right now focusing a little bit on European. So MAXIMUS is where I'm a venture partner at, and we have a fund for early stage startups. There isn't an industry focus, but generally a significant amount of traction, very vague, but would be something we would look at. I'm also an advisor at Loyal VC and separately for a couple of other startups. So that's me.
All right. Thank you, Whay. And then Nathan.
Howdy, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Cool. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Nathan Beckord. I'm currently in Boulder, Colorado, but I'm actually based out in San Francisco most of the time. And I've been around the startup world for a little while. I launched Foundersuite.com almost 9 years ago, which is a platform for startups raising capital. We've had 100,000 startups use it to raise 21 billion. And then more recently, we launched Fundingstack.com for emerging manager VCs raising the next fund. We've got about 400 venture funds using that. So been helping companies raise capital for a long time, seen lots of startups and lots of pitches, and excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. So now that everyone has a good baseline of who our panelists and judges are, we will dive into it. So we've got amazing pitches today between Daniel, Dan Hernandez, Brittany Canty, Gavin, Buckland, Adib, Shadid, phenomenal companies. So with that being said, you have 5 minutes. We'll kind of count you guys down. And Daniel, you have the floor. Please kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for inviting me. So myself, I'm Daniel, founder of Waave Mobility. But before I show you how we're changing mobility, here is what's broken. Urban mobility is on fire, but not in a good way. Ride-hail was supposed to make travel seamless, but it's now more expensive, more chaotic, and less sustainable. Fares are meanwhile up 300%, wait times doubled, and New York City traffic up 40%, driven by oversupply and underused cars. Cities have totally lost control. No data, no coordination, while thousands of licensed cars sit idle and disconnected from modern tech. That's broken, and Waave is here to fix it. What if the answer isn't more cars, but smarter ones? That's why we built Waave Hub, a universal AI-powered operating system for licensed fleets. Unlike app-only platforms, Waave connects directly to the car, unifying street hails, app bookings, dispatch, and third-party platforms. Riders get flexible access, drivers earn more, and cities regain oversight, compliance, and data. It also opens up new revenue streams from in-car ads and real-time data. This isn't just ride-hailing, it's an upgrade to the fleets cities already trust and a launchpad for autonomous mobility. And that unlocks what others can't. For example, real-time shared rides, from airport lines to event crowds, even off the street. We fill empty seats instantly, no detours, no dead miles. Uber-style apps can't. They rely on phone bookings, backed by patent-pending tech, built for scale, and protected by IP. A massive opportunity is hiding in plain sight. New York sees over 1 million daily rides, 200,000 of them still street hails. Urban ride services will reach a $350 billion by 2028, growing nearly 19% per year. This isn't a niche, it's a gap in one of the biggest markets. Waave fills that gap with compliance, coordination, and scale. In the last 12 months, Waave generated $2 million in revenue with clients like the Boston Public Health Commission. But even more exciting, we have over 100 cars ready for installs and a signed $55 million agreement with the New York MTA, all with no sales teams or marketing spend. Clear product market fit. This isn't a theory. Waave-powered taxis are real life in Boston, delivering a smoother and more professional ride than an UberX. Think of Waave as the Swiss Army knife of transportation. One platform, many tools, an AI-powered revenue machine. We get asked, are you trying to replace Uber? No, we complete what platforms like Uber can't. Waave is an infrastructure layer for licensed fleets and agnostic. For example, Uber can't legally pick up street hails. Waave can. Uber is just one of many partners that could plug into us. In fact, they already approached us for integration. Licensed fleets on relics. They are greener, safer, and regulated. 80% of our network is hybrid or electric. With strict vehicle age caps to keep fleets smarter and clean. We also avoid the churn and provide insurance that eats up 40% of Uber's operating costs. Our predictive AI boosts utilization and cuts idle miles, making every ride smarter. And tomorrow, the same system runs autonomous fleets, future ready. Licensed fleets already operate like AV fleets, insured, compliant, and centrally managed. As AVs rolls out, they can plug into Waave, earning when idle, like Airbnb did for empty homes. Instead of risky one-brand mega fleets taking over, Waave lets today drivers and fleet owners invest in AVs, keeping them in the game and earning, even without driving. Anyone can own an AV, connect it to Waave, and we'll operate it like a rental property for transportation. We are not just AV ready. We are building the infrastructure so everyone can benefit. We are not racing to figure it out. We are racing to scale what's already working. We're opening a $1.5 million round with 200,000 already committed. This gets us up to 1,000 cars, activates key contracts, and puts us on track for 25 million ARR in the next 12 to 15 months. The infrastructure is built. The demand is real. Now it's time to scale. And we're looking for the right partner to do it with us. Thank you.
All right. Phenomenal job. Great job, Daniel.
Thank you.
All right. Let's start with Whay. Feedback and
Yeah, good job, Dan. I was really impressed by your traction. That $2 million in such a short time, I think it's not an easy thing to do, especially in such a complex and already super competitive market. I think one area I would love to hear more about is sort of your business model and scalability path. So I see that you have already had some traction, but it will be nice to see how you plan to expand efficiently. And also one part I was not super clear about is, do you actually own the vehicles themselves? And that kind of changes the business model as well. But overall, I think you're on a great path. Very exciting stuff. I would give it a 7 because you have a clear, strong business model with traction. And it's not easy to fit it all in a 5-6 minutes pitch. I understand that. But I think it's, especially now when you're in a sort of scaling pitch, it will be nice to show some visibility into how you achieve that.
Okay, thank you.
perfect. Thank you, Whay. All right, Jason.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I also agree that $2 million is what stood out. You know, having this kind of traction early on says you're onto something for sure. Similar feedback as Whay. You know, I wasn't quite clear on scalability. It sounded like you're focused on fleet operators, which makes sense. So you can get a bunch of cars at once. But then you also mentioned that individuals can sign up. So I wasn't quite sure what your strategy was, but it seemed like the fleet operators may be the way to go. And I wasn't quite clear on, are you starting with healthcare? You mentioned healthcare providers, but Boston Public Commission, I'm not sure what the Boston Public Commission is, but are you focused on a target audience, maybe of certain types of fleets or certain types of customers they pick up? So I think clear on that. I'm glad to hear that you mentioned that Uber was talking about partnership, because anyone in this space, you're coming up against Uber or Lyft, right? And Uber's obviously the 800-pound gorilla, but there's a ride sharing service in Chicago that's focused on healthcare. And so, you know, there are people that are, and there's one in St. Louis, I think, or I forgot where, but there's several I know that are focused on healthcare, pickups from the vehicles that make the most sense that are retrofitted. So I wasn't quite sure on if there's a focused area right now. Maybe just clarify that a little bit more. And then last thing I'll say is your problem slide probably should have had more impact. I like seeing numbers and percents. You just talked in general terms about limited access to some other things. You mentioned some things when you talked to us, but put those numbers or percents on the slide, let those stand out, and then you can reduce some of your text. But the fact that you're $2 million revenue is impressive, even though it's a starting point, but it's a good starting point. I will give you a 7 as well.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jason. All right. And then Nathan.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing. I'm kind of confused about what you do, to be honest. Like, I'm hearing, or at least the first part of the pitch, I'm hearing kind of AI ride-hailing matchmaking for taxis and, fleets. And then it shifted into this autonomous vehicle network, which I guess is maybe the direction it goes, but I'm kind of confused about what exactly you do. Now, I know it's hard to convey what is probably a pretty complicated business in just a few minutes, but just a little more clarity on that up front, I think would be helpful. And then I think also in that slide where you're talking about your $2 million in revenue, I think I saw something that says you have a $55 million contract. That was like almost an aside, but that sounds massive, right? Like, what is that all about? Maybe spend just an extra 30 seconds detailing that. Because if that's like something an investor can really push on and it's firm, not squishy, it's amazing, right? So that's key. You know, raising $1.5 million to go up into this market against some of these incumbents, we could talk about that a bit, whether that's enough money. You could argue that's not nearly enough to go after these new markets. Overall, pretty interesting. I'm going to give it are we doing full points? I'll do 6 or 6.5 if I can do half a point. I thought it was good, but just a little bit of lack of clarity. Maybe I just haven't had enough coffee I'm going to give it a 6.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Daniel. And so if anyone else has any questions, for Daniel, you're welcome to put it in the chat or Slack Daniel directly. Daniel, if you want to share your LinkedIn or email for the best way people to get in touch with you as well, feel free to do so. And yeah, amazing job. Thanks for kicking us off. So with that, Brittany, you are up next if you want to share your screen. Perfect. All right. You've got 5 minutes on the clock. And then Tyga also just shared Dan's LinkedIn. He'll continue to share them after. And then Brittany, you have the floor. And you're muted.
Of course. All right. And so every failed startup has a graveyard of good ideas behind it. And I've worked at 5 of them. Each one started with a bold vision to change lives, redefine an industry, make a mark. But they didn't fail because the ideas weren't good. Stats will say they failed because they ran out of money. But the truth is they failed because they didn't have the right people in the room. The right people that can avoid the avoidable mistakes, that can push back on an ever-changing strategy, that can take a vision and right size that execution. They failed because the teams lacked the right guidance at the right time. No support, no expertise, no margin for error. So here are the facts. Early stage startups can't hire the talent they need, only the talent they can afford. This leads to bug-prone software, constant rewrites, and missed opportunities. These same early stage companies rarely have the time or budget to truly understand their audiences and ensure they're building the right product for the customer need. And lastly, there are thousands of ambitious people, especially from underrepresented backgrounds, who are hungry for mentorship but can't afford $200 sessions with a weekly coach. And that last fact may seem kind of a strange addition, but I'll explain how it fits. Because of all of these facts, I've built a platform to solve all these problems in an innovative way. So I'm Brittany, founder and CEO of Inciteful. And after years of working at early stage startups, I saw the same pattern over and over. Lean teams trying to execute ambitious plans without proper guidance. One company had their head of product design an entire app without having a single customer interview. And that's not innovation, it's inefficiency and it's expensive. So that's why I built Inciteful, a platform where expertise as a service powers fast, confident execution for startups, while creating pathways to free coaching for individuals. And here's how it works. Early stage startups subscribe to this expertise as a service, getting flexible access to product, design, and engineering guides, solving real problems like how to construct a scalable and secure architecture. Individuals, who we call earners, can earn free one-on-one coaching by taking short insight surveys. And their input powers our AI audience simulator, giving startups instant access to simulated feedback from their key user demographics. For early stage companies, this means a lean team can execute like a senior one. A $3,600 a month investment can yield over $170,000 in saved costs and execution value, max ROI. For earners, it's life-changing. One user landed a full-time job after a year of unemployment because they were matched with a job search coach through Inciteful. And for product teams, this means skipping the 6-week research cycle and getting instant actionable insight from our AI simulation, saving thousands per test. We serve early stage startups that need to move quickly without sacrificing quality. And with AI in the spotlight, we're doing what AI can't, placing humans where they thrive and tech where it adds speed. We're providing the expertise you can't Google. Just a few weeks ago, I helped a fintech founder avoid a potentially costly build by highlighting fraud measures taken by banks that would handicap his planned approach. Not something that AI can surface because no bank on earth would document that and make that publicly available. But in my recent lived experience, that helped them get ahead of that problem. And that's the key. Our experts are still practitioners, still doing the job, and that's what separates us most from other advisor and mentorship platforms. This isn't advice gained from experience 15 years ago. This is insight gained from last month. And we know that some of the best businesses have network effects, scalable platforms, and data moats. Inciteful has all three. The more earners we serve, the richer our data. The richer our data, the smarter our simulator. And the smarter the simulator paired with our expert guidance, the faster startups grow, making our value undeniable and expansion exponential. We're starting with early stage startups, again, who are feeling the execution pressure most intensely. And as we grow, the AI simulator and coaching marketplace deepen the value of the ecosystem. We've reached 150 earners, onboarded about 15 mentors across B2B and B2C, and averaging over 200 survey submissions per month. And we're using the structured data to prototype the simulator with early test cases. We charge monthly subscriptions for mentorship in the AI simulator and earn a commission per coaching session on the B2C. Our initial TAM is $13 billion across coaching, startup enablement, and UX research tools, and we can expand further in the future of work. We can tap into an additional $70 billion market. This business is built for this exact moment. Startups are under pressure to do more with less, venture capital is tighter than ever, and aspiring talent is looking to support that doesn't break the bank. And I know personally from all sides. My first coach helped me land my first VP of product role and helped me increase my salary by $80,000 in less than 12 months. And that changed my life. We're not just fixing mentorship, we're creating an equitable growth engine for startups and individuals alike. We're building the expertise you can't Google, the insight you can't fake, and the platform that helps ambitious people and companies reach their next milestone faster. I'm looking forward to feedback and introductions. Thank you so much.
All right. Nice job, Brittany. Thank you for sharing. And with that, Jason, we will have you go first.
Hi, Brittany. Good to see you again. Thank you for your presentation. Interesting. You obviously have some learning that you brought into this, which is helpful for any company that you want to start. Yeah, I mean, a couple thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of other, I'd say it'd be helpful if you talked about what other resources are out there. People have tried to solve this for a long time. There's a number of different services out there, it could be as simple, I know that's not quite the same, but could be as simple as something like Fiverr or some other service. I mean, you're competing with expertise in those other services. There's mentor programs. So try to put, not categorize, but tell us where you fit in the ecosystem of all the other players, because a lot of people have tried to do this, and I don't know if any stands out yet, but that's one thing, is just where do you fit in? The revenue, you went over the revenue pretty quick. I wanted to, you're charging startups a certain amount per month. I don't know where they are in the life cycle of their business. That's still a lot of money for them. And it depends. Maybe they have some rounds raised, they have some revenue. And then I wanted to hear a little bit about how you pay your earners. I was trying to read it, then you went very quick. I know you have limited time. So what is their incentive? I was going to originally ask if they were, they're looking for work. It looked like one earner was looking for work on your little testimonial, but then you eventually said they have day jobs and they're doing this on the side. So what is their incentive? Is it just an extra source of income? Are they looking for new opportunities? So you have to constantly replenish probably that expertise, which is the network effect, like you mentioned. So I think there's something here for sure. I think clarifying some of those pieces would get me to understand a little bit more and kind of where you fit in this marketplace for this. But I'd say your problem slide, it was general, put some numbers. I always like to see numbers. Are there a number of startups that fail because it's like, what percent? Is there lost revenue opportunity? Is there turnover in their teams? So maybe if you can find those stats, and you may not be able to, but those are always great, and it sets the problem. But maybe even talk about your story. Is this a story you experienced as a founder? I know you talked about the startups you've been involved in, so maybe it's a combination of all those, but there's a story that gives us a perspective from a real pain point. I think that'd be helpful too. Anyways, I'll stop there, but I will give you a 5 right now, but I think you're in a good spot. You've had some traction, which is good. So starting point. So thank you, Brittany.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Nathan, you are up next.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I like the phrase, I think it was up early in the slide, that startups get the talent they need versus talent they can afford. They usually end up with the talent they can afford. So I like that sort of idea of, hey, we're creating a way for startups to really get the talent they need. I thought that was a cool concept. It was a little confusing whether is this for individual people starting off on their career, or is this for like startups to be able to level up, right? So individual versus firm or small companies, or maybe it's both. I was a little also confused just about the what's in it for the experts, right? Are they getting paid? I think you went really fast through the revenue slide, but I think it said $1,800 per month paid by the startup. So if there's economics, or you're sharing some of that revenue with the experts, that would be just interesting to know. As someone who sells software to startups, I know it's really hard to get money out of startups. We can talk offline about about that. It's really hard to even we sell $100 a month, and it's hard to get that out of startups. Question a little bit the ability for too many startups to pay for $1,800 a month, unless they're already venture funded. But then if they're venture funded, they probably are starting to have some experts starting to surround them, whether it's the people in the fund or others. So a little question mark about the business model. Overall, I think it's interesting though. Like Jason mentioned, there are these other networks out there. I'd probably want to hear a little bit more about how you're different. We've seen this model come up. I'm to be full disclosure, a member of one called Hubble, where people can book me for expertise and they pay. And even then, it's a lot of startup founders, and they can book like an hour, half an hour, 15 minutes. Almost everyone books 15 minutes because they're just cheap and they're poor. So there's that business model issue to contend with. Overall, I think there's something here. I also like Jason's idea of starting with your personal story and connecting that to why you're building this. I think that could be good. Getting in a little bit more on that. I'm going to go 6 as my score on this. I think there's something there. I think there's some big question marks that aren't quite resolved in my brain yet, but definitely something interesting. So good job.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. And then Whay.
First of all, good job, Brittany. I think this problem statement is very real. I think a lot of early stage founders need as much help as they can. So I think my feedback are going to be pretty similar. I think it started off very clear that you were targeting or trying to match the right help to the founders and trying to see, whether it's go to market, et cetera, is what I'm kind of getting the vibes out of. And when you mention it's making it accessible to these founders, and that's where I kind of assume that you're offering that sort of expertise at a cheaper rate. And then I started thinking, then how are you attracting the right expertise and experienced professionals to kind of share their expertise and kind of incentivize them? So very similar feedback from what they were saying as well. And I would say that overall that problem solution is clear to me, but I would just say that business model, it just got confusing as we go along the slides. It started off like matching, and then you gave a testimonial about somebody getting a job through this service. So then I think that's where I got lost in what exactly it was. But I think it's a good start. It's a real problem statement. I think just narrowing down what kind of service and what kind of business model you're actually trying to offer would be good. Yeah. My overall score would be 6 out of 10. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your feedback, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. And then Brittany's LinkedIn is also in the chats. And then Mr. Hernandez, you are up next.
All righty. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All righty. Can everyone, let's see the full screen here?
Yep. Looks great. And you got 5 minutes on the clock.
All righty. Thank you. Happy Friday, Junior, y'all. We had a busy tech week here in Chicago, so I'm excited to present HUPR, which I co-founded and is a basketball application. I started off with a simple problem. Really, you have a basketball player in an urban city. He's asking himself, where do I play? Who do I play with when I get to that court? And then after all that, how do I stay connected to those people I just met? So we immediately created HUPR. So initially in HUPR, you can jump in a city, you can explore indoor, outdoor courts. Each court has a live flyover, has a live court chat, a link to navigate to the court. And then if you create an event, it actually links to that court. So if I were to host an event, I can attend or create an event. If I am hosting, I could see the RSVPs, the runs I could share with my friends. And again, these actually link to the court. So if I invite, if I share with friends, or if I'm a user just exploring, I could see this run. And then we have citywide chats. So along with the court chats, you have a citywide chat where users all across the city can communicate free willingly about what's going on in the city. This is pertaining to that individual city. So New Yorkers cannot talk with Chicagoans if they're in that chat. And then city insights tracked monthly. We want to give people a pulse of what's going on in their city. So we actually allow them to view how many people are viewing a court, how many people are liking a court, messaging, and then you can actually have your own bookmarks about your favorite courts. All this work resulted in happy hoopers. I think we all know that gentleman in the top right there, but from recreational organized sports to clinics to parties, which we'll get into, this is our journey so far. And last year, we had about 2,000 downloads, about 1,700 user profiles. This year, we're already surpassing that unique user profile and downloads. And then we introduced a 99-cent per month subscription to see what the traction is if we were to just lock friend list and favorited courts. And so far, the conversion has been great for that 99 cents. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about how HUPR came to be. It started off with my co-founder, Malik Mitchell. He worked for Goldman Sachs. He faced that problem a lot in New York, and so he actually coded the application himself. As a sole developer, he launched HUPR in March 2024. He brought me on a month before that, and my experience as Zipcar and Uber, I was like, this is amazing. I went to school for sport and recreation management. Let's do it. And from there, we started off in-person summer tournaments in New York because we wanted to garner feedback about what we're going to build for who. Quickly, we onboarded a New York City team. And then from there, we wanted to throw HUPR leagues. We worked with NBA and collegiate talent, and then had a HUPR listening party, which is a celebration for basketball people who are professionals, front office people, or just lovers of the game. Year to date, kind of lifetime, I should say, we have 6,000 followers on socials, 5,000 downloads, and over 400 participants in our in-person events. And this is all done by a simple go-market strategy of having those in-person events, creating real relationships, leveraging social media content off of those relationships, and then being creative with our advertising and allowing hoopers to feel like they're part of the journey so they can be organic supporters. Now, looking at the total addressable market, I want to focus on the recreational population, looking at that 8.5 million, as well as the market size for people spending on this industry that is around 1.131 billion. And overall, this market is trending upwards in terms of athleisure. Young or old people are spending in sport, and basketball is the #1 most played sport in the US. So we're very excited to be in this market. Some insights into what we're building. We're building an Android application. That application will feature collectibles. So as you go to courts, you're actually able to earn a token that you could collect. If I were to create an event, I create my own token that other people can collect. Easy enough. And from that, here is future pricing. $2.99 a month for that HUPR Ultimate Unlocking City Recommendations. HUPR Organizers, where so you're hosting events, you're really wanting to connect and host more clinics, games, etc. HUPR Enterprise is someone who's looking to advertise to the local community. So the winning playbook is a Strava and Pokemon Go, but for hoopers. So a quick on scalability, this platform is sport agnostic, so will replicate to other sports. Very high margin because we don't have any back-end costs after we develop the software. And then again, operationally, that organic local adoption. Large targets like Strava, Nike, Sports Engine, but really we just need to focus on basketball and dominating that market in terms of curating our margin and figuring that out before we expand. And we're currently fundraising $500,000 for 20% for multi-city expansion, more engineering help, and then marketing and community growth. So I want to thank you all for supporting HUPR's mission to uplift basketball communities worldwide.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Yeah, I've been firsthand to many of Dan's events, which are a blast. And so, definitely fun seeing those as they continue to grow. So we will start off with Nathan.
Congrats, good job. It looks fun. Yeah, we all view the world through our own lenses, right? I play an obscene amount of pickleball, and I also travel a lot, so I'm always looking to find where to play and meet people to go play pickleball when I'm traveling to a new city. And so I'm familiar with similar apps like Team Reach and there's probably a few others out there. It's interesting, none of these apps that I've used, and again, this is a different market, have ever been able to really monetize. So that's always a question mark. Now, you're charging 99 cents. That's not much money. So maybe that's a low enough barrier, right? But I've seen these other apps try and monetize and no one's done it very successfully. The thing I would like to see in this is a cool concept. I totally get it. It's easy to understand what you're doing, right? Like to understand more on the kind of engagement and retention, right? You're signing up 1,600 people. How many of them are booking or booking courts or matchmaking courts, whatever your phrase is there? How many use the app repeat to do that same thing? And how many total, bookings and whatnot are made? I think that'd be really interesting to understand. Does this thing have stickiness, right? You get people to sign up, do they use it once, meet a couple guys to play, and then they coordinate by text after, right? Do you keep them in the app? Do you keep them engaged? I'd want to really kind of understand that. So a little, questions and marks about the engagement, retention, and a little bit on the business model, but overall the concept's pretty clear. I'll give it a 7. I think it's interesting.
Whay, you are next.
Okay. Yeah, I actually have similar feedback. I like the idea, first of all. I'm not a basketball person, but I like the idea as well as how scalable it is that if it is something that you would consider, it could go into other types of sports as well in the future. And that's how the community could grow. But my concern, I wouldn't say concern is a strong word, but my question would also be, how do you keep users engaged? Because same thoughts as Nathan, a lot of times platforms or services like this, people start connecting, meeting for the first time, and they take it personally and they, get out of the app. So that's one. And the other one is it'll be good if we can look at numbers on DAU, MAU, however you measure that, to really see how people are continuously engaging in that, or do they drop off after, I don't know, the first booking, etc. That kind of helps people to understand that, hey, there is some stickiness and maybe you can dive deeper into that as well. But yeah, I actually think this is an interesting business model and nice, strong early traction as well. So I think my score for this would be 7.5.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Whay. And then Jason.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you. Thanks for your presentation. I thought your slides were great, very visual. I like visual slides. It was easy to follow. I thought your solution slide was great where you walked us through. You timed it well. So that was really good to see how it works. I had similar questions about customer engagement, how long they're going to be with you. But along those lines, your go-to-market strategy, it wasn't as clear to me. Are you just calling existing leagues? Are you calling community centers? How are you getting people to want to use what you're doing? So that to me was important to understand that. But along those lines, I know we've talked offline about this, but it didn't come clear, and I'm trying to remember what you've told me in the past. But do you have to go through community center? Like, do you have to go through the cities to how are reservations working? And maybe you're setting up the reservation system for these public parks or these public courts, but how do you keep that organized with, people that just want to go do a random pickup game? How do you organize it in those communities? And I think that's really what you're trying to do here, is organize where there is no organization. But I wasn't clear on some of the hurdles you may have to come across to get that organized. So I think that that's important to just understand how it works, like scenes. Also, I'm not in this space. You mentioned Strava a few times. I don't know what that is. So be careful when you do comparisons with companies that people may not know what it is. That's why I don't like when people compare their businesses to other companies. Just tell us your business model. So you need to tell us what that is, because I didn't know what that was. And I'd be careful about putting, and this is for everyone, any kind of pitch like this, I wouldn't put terms on your decks. Let that come to the next conversation. You put 500,000 for 20%. You shouldn't be raising a price round at this point. So to me, that says you're raising a price round, and investors probably don't think you're worth $2.5 million at this point. So I would just be careful about putting any terms on your deck. Let that come to another conversation, then talk about it. Any public event like this, you got to be careful also about putting any capital numbers. And this is for everyone as well. But I will let the organizers and other people guide you on that. But I wouldn't put terms on a deck for your first conversation. But other than that, I thought the presentation flowed well. The slides are great. So I'm going to give you a 6.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jason. And then Gavin, you are up next.
Awesome. My last, bringing us home.
We got one more after you. We got Mr. Shadid after. So, but not all the pressure on you.
Nice. Well, it sounds like we saved best for last. Okay. All right, guys, well, excited to introduce you to Clipsense. It is a video editing software for video editors to ingest their footage to rough cut in under 5 minutes. So I'm sorry with a quick story. I was hired by Jim Beam a couple years ago to edit a highlight video of a conference that they were putting on. And I had about 6 hours worth of footage and needed to cut it down to like a 2.5 minute highlight video, and had around 48 hours to do it. And so it's 3 a.m. in this hotel room, and I am just like, there's got to be a better way to do this. As I'm sorting through hours of raw footage, trying to find those few good moments. We spend about 25 to 40 hours reviewing footage on average per month as video editors. And that equates to about 2 to 4K in wasted labor that we're spending. It takes about 2 hours of work per hour of footage that you shoot, which equates to about $160 per hour of footage that you shoot. Just trying to get a metric of what does this currently cost? So with Clipsense, we want to boost efficiency, creativity, and capacity. And with just one click, Clipsense can instantly sort and isolate those best moments so that you can get to work in minutes. So how it works is you simply upload your footage. You can configure the settings to be how strict or how relaxed you want it to sort, and pick the good moments. You let it do its thing, and then it exports a file that is then able to be imported into the leading editing software like Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. It is compatible with those. It currently sorts based on 2 parameters. So it's looking for the technical, both things like, is the shot in focus? Is it exposed well? Is it stable? Does it have good white balance? And then also the more subjective. So does it have a good aesthetic? Is the compositions being actually analyzed and understood through semantic analysis? As you guys know, video is a huge industry. Specifically, it's a $3 billion industry just spent on video editing software alone. And there's about 50 million video editors worldwide from a conservative standpoint. Our plan to go to market is to reach about 50,000 independent wedding and event filmmakers in the US alone. So the people that are dealing with a massive amount of footage. And we're aiming to save about 5 to 10 hours per project to reduce burnout on these impossible fast turn deadlines. Our plan to do that is through strategic partnerships, partnering with production companies and post-production influencers. That's how we've gotten a lot of our traction so far. We offer a free trial, so let the product speak for itself. And then we've also gotten a lot of requests from our users for a referral program to help grow and boost that organic reach. Currently offer like a starter $29 a month plan for our beta that's out there right now that users are paying for. And then we're wanting to grow that to about a $299 a month cost for our primary target market, which is a fraction of that 2 to 4K that they're currently spending in the time that they're using to do the work currently. The traction that we've gotten so far, we've generated, just from one social media post, about $5,000 in revenue of people actually paying for the service and using it. That's a little over 500 users, over 1,000 actual signups. And we've gotten some good customer feedback, specifically in our Slack channel that we have of the people that are using it. We had one user, who reached out via email, was like, "This is the thing I've been wanting my entire life. I'd gladly pay $300 a month for that." Our plan is to launch our V1 by the end of this year and reach 1,000 users. So that would generate about $348,000 in ARR. And then the goal in 2 years would be to have our V2 launch and reach that 10,000 users that I had kind of talked about, which would be about 3.4 million in ARR. When I first started this, there was nothing like this out there. And since then, a lot of comparators have popped up, which is cool to see that there's a big demand and shows that this is solving a real problem. And some of the users or some of the comparators don't have a working beta out there. We've been ahead in that, which is nice. Some are built on other APIs. Ours is a proprietary AI core. And then others just, simply have it just analyzes focus, or it's just analyzing shot stability, whereas we have much more comprehensive B-roll analysis. I am a filmmaker with 10 years of film and marketing experience. I run and founded a post-production company. So we do commercial work and social media content for brands like Under Armour, NASCAR, Bose, NFL, NBC, and such. And then our head of technology is Gavin, who's also on this call. Hopefully he can pop in and say, hey, he's got a long track record in AI and autonomous systems. We're really looking to assemble our Avengers, our advisory board of investors that come with a wealth of marketing and software experience in growing companies like that. I really do believe that the post house of the future is powered by AI. So Clipsense is the editing assistant that every post-production team needs. Step 1 was to get it to automate the tedious parts. And then step 2 is really to create an entire AI-powered post-production ecosystem. So products that support all people in the pipeline. So not just editors, but colorists, the effects artists, sound designers, and motion graphic teams. We're looking to raise $350K. That really helps us unlock our full market. V1 helps us solidify product market fit, which we have a little bit of with some of that traction, but want to increase that. And then that helps us reach the 1,000 users and scale to that 50 to 60,000 MRR. You can kind of see how we're looking to spend it. Half of it, would be devoted to product and tech development, and then the other half to marketing, ops, and some contingency. Thank you, guys.
All right. Nice job, Gavin. And we'll have to touch base after, because there's someone else in the community as part of Scenery AI that I think recently sold to Tiger, maybe does Adobe or one of those other groups. Yep, perfect. So, okay, cool. Whay, you are up first.
All right. So I know it's early in your journey right now, but it's solid to see early adoption and also some validation for a need like this. I know you had a quick slide on competitors, but I think it would be helpful to talk a little bit more about that, especially when we're trying to sell that AI angle. Like you said, a lot of newcomers or new companies coming up doing similar things. So it would be helpful to hear how your AI might or will stand out compared to the other competitors that you see today. And how would then you keep creators coming back? So that conversion and retention strategy, it will be helpful to know versus a lot of users today could easily switch, right? I could just do free trial for a month and switch over since there are a lot of options. So what is that unique value that you're having to keep them kind of sticking to your product? So I think overall, off to a great, strong start. There's some signs of product market fit. So my score for that would be 7 out of 10.
Thanks, Whay.
Thank you, Whay. All right, Nathan.
Yeah, cool stuff. Very interesting. I think very good presentation too. It flowed really nicely. Like when you started off, I had a question: is this for pros or amateurs? You answered that with the wedding and event people. Then I said, how does it figure out the best moments? You answered that, explaining it. Showed the market size. I have a brother-in-law who's a wedding photographer, and I see him just spending hours going through all his stuff, and it looks very painful. So the pain is very clear. You know, it's a cool idea, right? I think it comes down to like, does this work as advertised? Does it really pick out those best moments reliably? Can someone trust it to get those all the good moments, or does it get some of them, right? And then the user has to still go in and review the whole raw footage. Like can I rely on this to really find me the best moments? Now that's a tech question that, you know, you'll answer over time with users, and your retention will tell that whether that's true or not. So it's cool. Like, assuming it works as advertised, it sounds really awesome. I guess I would also think about like what's in that V2 you kind of put out there, just as an idea. Can you pick out best content based on like audio, right? I have a podcast, shameless plug, How I Raised It. We have 330 episodes, hour long each, or 40 minutes. And it's a huge pain in the ass. Like, could you use this to build me a sizzle reel or a trailer automatically? Go in, look at my hour long interview, pick out, 2 minutes of the best stuff. That would be killer, right? And maybe that's in the roadmap, or maybe it's not. Overall, I like this. Assuming it works as advertised, I'll give it a 7.5. I guess if we're doing half points.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Nathan.
All right, awesome. Jason.
Nathan, if you're a founder and suit mentor, no half points. So it works. All right. Thank you, Gavin. Good presentation. I thought you started out strong with the problem slide where you talked about the pain point. You did the numbers that I like to see. One thing that would be interesting, and maybe you alluded to it, but more when you talked about your background, is this a pain point you experienced as a post-production business? If it was, or maybe an amateur filmmaker, talk about the pain point you experienced. I think that would really resonate even more with the problem you're solving. I like the focus. You talk wedding and event filmmakers, amateur. So you're very focused. That was good. You're not trying to go after everyone, even those are still pretty big markets, but there's probably overlap, I'm guessing, with those markets. One thing is, how do you ramp this? You've had some go-to-market stuff, but maybe you can touch on it more. Like, how are you really going to ramp up? Are you going individually? Are you going after organizations that, trade associations? I don't know what it is, but is this purely a B2C model? Is there a B2B component in there? Maybe it's a mix because they're doing their own thing, maybe, but can you scale that, right? Versus doing one at a time. Going a little bit Whay touched on a little bit, but the competitor slide, talk about, you alluded to a little bit in the problem, but there's so many other editing softwares out there. You just talked about the up and coming, or the ones that maybe directly compete, but what are they currently doing? So maybe tell us where you fit in the landscape of the whole ecosystem, because obviously with AI tools, everything is changing and you're on that path but there's still other solutions out there. And so maybe touch on that a little bit. And then the last thing on your it's a fun slide, 12.9% contingency. I don't like that. That's like an other category. Just lump it into something. I don't know what that means. That's very nebulous. So just put it in operations or something else. Don't even have a category like that. Keep it high level. So other than that, I thought it was, and the fact that you are a filmmaker, I think your presentation could be a whole nother notch visibly. I think it was good, but you're going to have an expectation to have it even better than this because you're a creative person. But it was still good, but people are going to expect more from you probably, whether it's fair or not, but that's the reality of it. So I'll give you a 7 as well.
Thanks,
All
Jason.
right. Thank you, Gavin. So then with that perfect timing, we've got 8 minutes left. Our last presenter, Mr. Adib Shadid and Gatherly.
On everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Gatherly. My name's Adib. Am I presenting this quite yet?
I see the smaller version, but I think maybe if you go full screen or presenter view.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome to Galilee, everybody. We're calling it the future of virtual events. Let me start with a bit of my background as well. I come from a hospitality background. I have an MBA from Switzerland, from a hospitality school, and I built my career with Four Seasons, primarily managing their corporate events on their ballrooms on their third, fourth, and fifth floors up until the pandemic. When the pandemic came, obviously, and everything shut down for a little while, that's when I left the hotel industry. And since then, I've been an educator, a professor currently at Niagara College in the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism. And then my product sort of came out of a need as well towards like 2022 when the pandemic started to die down and people started to return to in-person. Virtual events didn't very much. Virtual events started to continue, virtual classes started to continue, webinars, so on and so forth, even this pitch presentation virtual. And I start to wonder sort of what would this have been like if it were in person? What if we were all together in one room and we were doing this pitch panel? I'd have said hello to a bunch of you already. I'd have made FaceTime contact. I'd have changed a couple of contact information bits, but because we're virtual, we're kind of stuck in this frame where we're, absorbing content for the majority of our time. So welcome to Galilee. We're shaking up virtual events and here's how. And let's start by talking about kind of the big problems with virtual events today. Number one, there's really, really low engagement. Now, we're not here to solve video calls. We're not here to solve webinars. Those have been solved and those products already exist and they're well. But virtual events aren't solved. And here's what I mean by that. Events really since the beginning of time have always really been this conduit, of connectivity, of getting people together, where people can meet each other, exchange information. When companies are sending their members to online conferences or conventions, they're not doing so that their people can absorb a bunch of content. They're there so that they can make a bunch of introductions. And I think that that's completely missing today. The concept of a virtual event didn't exist in 2019. The concept of a virtual event came out post-pandemic, but it's been done wrong. And it takes somebody like Gildre to be like, wait a minute, this isn't quite an event. This is a content dump. This is a bit dumb. We can do it a lot better, right? 70% of all virtual event attendees remain completely passive, never activating cameras or microphones or talking to anybody else. And 67% of virtual event organizers rate engagement as the biggest problem. Virtual events have a real ROI problem. There's an inability to attract sponsors because of weak data points and weak visibility. And oftentimes it takes a whole lot of tools to host a virtual event really well. You need a page for registration, you need a payment processor for ticketing, you need the platform itself, invitations, reminders, so on and so forth, friction, and it becomes complex. So Gildre solves all of that. Number one, we feature a spatial navigation map in all of our virtual events that boosts engagement tremendously. It allows people to interact with each other like they would in real life, travel across different floors, and jump in between one-on-one chats, small groups, and event-wide broadcasts with a click. We help event organizers maximize their ROI with behavioral data, and none of our competitors are doing that right now. So post-events, organizers really get an understanding of how people experience their time and how they engage, and sponsors are really happy because they get that data as well, but also because there's extreme visibility of them and their brands and their products and services at events, and of course, all-in-one simplicity. But let's see it in action. Welcome to Gildre, the future of virtual events. Joining is easy and fast. Move freely through interactive spaces just like in real life. Then you can join small group conversations with a single click, explore multiple floors for different activities, and stay organized, know where everything is with that event agenda. Go live with powerful broadcast tools that reach your whole audience and easily manage speakers and transitions. Share content seamlessly during sessions and keep attendees engaged with live polls. Best of all, feature your sponsors with interactive and branded booths. Easily customize your event in real time. Welcome to Gildre, where virtual becomes personal. So we've got a lot of competitors in this space. It's not like we're the only ones doing immersive events, and that's because everybody understands that there is a need to make virtual events more engaging and more personal. I believe that one day in the future, people are going to have a decision to make in their minds. We have a virtual event to host. Are we going to be using a Zoom-ish platform or a more immersive platform? If the point of our event is to share content, well, then we got to go with a Zoom-ish platform. But if the point is to create connectivity and nurture relationships, it's going to be an immersive platform, and Gildre is going to win. And here's why. Real engagement. We've hosted over 7,000 events since we launched so far. Over 91% of all attendees have kept cameras and microphones on from beginning to end, and we're featuring a stayover rate of 41 minutes. That's how long the average attendee remains engaged, talking to people, meeting people, engaging with sponsors past the end of scheduled events. That's unheard of on other platforms. This event is going to end in about a minute. Are we going to stay on for another 41 minutes? So it's a large market, $15 billion in 25, growing very, very quickly at 20.2% growth because of a huge need for virtual events. And we believe that we can obtain 250,000 accounts in the near future. By 2029, 40,000 accounts, bringing us to an ARR of 244 million. I'm running out of time. I've got to go quickly. Subscriptions and full service events are how we generate revenue. We have a free plan, and we've got objectives to have people upgrade once they're on it. Starter, Pro, and Enterprise all at 3-day trials. And we're already in motion. Our clients in corporate, higher education, and nonprofit are highest, and we're looking at how we can penetrate new corporate markets. We've been laser focused on corporate and higher education because of a clear need, and we plan on scaling this through primarily channel partnerships, go-to-market toolships, and activating attendees post-event. We're asking for 850,000 right now to accelerate GTM and to scale product development and to internalize our awesome team. Thank you very much. It's great to see you guys. I think I've been over time a little bit there. Thank you for your flexibility. Jason, it's great to see you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Adib, and appreciate it. I know you were kind of jamming that in for the last 5-6 minutes. So, and definitely, obviously, always considered when we host a lot of our speed networking for these spaces here on Gatherly. So maybe the next pitch competition or pitch panel will be there too. So appreciate that.
Should have been there.
Yeah,
And Gildre are subscribers.
we will make sure. But so I know we're at time. Hopefully everyone this recorded, but if the panelists want to roll through their feedback, we will make sure we kind of bring it on home. So Jason, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, Adib. Good to see you again as well. Thank you for your presentation. I thought you started out really strong, telling us your story, that connect the dots, talked about the pain point, a little bit about what happened in the market. So I think that was strong. It added instant credibility. Your slides I thought were pretty good. They were clean. You had a little bit too much text on some of them. Like your use of funds slide, way too much, too hard to digest. So I would clean, do the pie chart like you've probably seen in others, but keep it simple. The one thing about the problem, you talked about the user problem, like let engagement. You mentioned there's like a ROI problem, but who's the ROI for? I think you alluded to the organizers, but is there money lost? Is there sponsorship money lost? Is there productivity loss, inefficiency? If you're targeting companies, because you had universities later, some of your clients, what is the real issue that's happening there? Time lost, but does that equate to dollars lost, or inefficiency? Is that dollars lost? So I try to, if you can, talk more about that pain. And but I thought this, I'll end here because we got to move on, but I'll give you a 7 as well. But I thought your energy was really good too, so I appreciate that. So that comes across good.
Great. Thank you. Nathan.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to borrow this or steal this. I love that on your cover slide, you put a little traction snapshot. That's really cool. Little way to get people hooked. That video in the middle, I have to say, was kind of a hot mess. It could be some latency or lag on my side. I'm not sure, but it was like, I couldn't follow any of that. So I would almost just chop that video out completely or condense it or slow it down even maybe. So it's like, so people can follow, because it was just jumping all over the place. I took nothing away from that. So change that up a little bit. Here's I think the biggest thing in my mind is, like everyone on this, I've done lots of events using different tools that are trying to recreate this live event feel. They all suck. I have not had any of them that are good.
I'm telling you, you come to Gatherly, Nathan.
Well, that's the thing. You say, your real engagement, right? Like you talk about people stay on the whole time, or 90%, I forget your stat, but they stay on. But what's the secret sauce for this true engagement? Because that feature list on that slide where it's talking about analytics and custom, that's not the secret sauce. So I'd like to hear what the actual secret sauce is that makes this usable, whereas where all the others have failed, right? I'm sure that it's there, but that would be interesting to really get a feel. Because again, I come into this kind of skeptical. I've tried a dozen of these, they all suck. What's your secret sauce? So anyway, like Jason, the busy slides, got to streamline these slides a little bit. Your clients are really good, and your energy is good too. A lot of vibrancy, so that's great. Yeah, I'll go 7 because I like the energy. You're a hustler.
Right.
I like that.
Thank you, Nathan. And then Whay, last one. What do you got?
All right. Yeah, I really like your energy too. I think you kind of kept everyone engaged during the presentation. but I think maybe the content of the presentation kind of derailed myself a little bit there. I would say that I don't know if it's my internet. I think I'm lagging a little bit as well, but the video was nothing to me. Yeah, and it took up a chunk of your presentation. So I would say just skip it and just talk about it, because I think you are probably a better presenter than the video.
Thank you.
So, and just to hop onto Jason's point as well, I think the last slide was really a lot, trying to put in the projection and a lot of numbers into a short pitch like this was not meaningful. It could be something that you can email across, but not in this 5 minutes. Yeah. I think that was kind of missing for me was kind of regathering everyone's networking style to now knowing that a lot of people are going back into in-person event. So are you now competing just as an alternative for other sort of virtual event providers, or are you also kind of providing a unique value proposition that an in-person event cannot replicate? I don't know, right? Maybe you did mention, yeah, but I didn't catch it. But that would be something good to kind of just quickly talk about. And if that is the case, that it is kind of unique in comparison to a in-person event, I think that's a big point, because that expands your market by a lot as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I will.
Yeah, yeah, and my score is 7.5.
All right. Well, amazing. And I know we're a few minutes over. So again, wanted to thank everyone for coming. This will be recorded. So hopefully kind of as you saw the trends between, you know, everyone's pitches was a lot of helpful feedback, regardless if you're building in B2C, B2B, software, hardware, anything like that. And so our mission is always to kind of collect this one strong panel that can share a lot of feedback from their investment thesis and obviously share a lot of great products and things that our other founders are building. So the Tiger shared the LinkedIn's for everyone. If you're interested in connecting further with the founder specifically for feedback, advisor connections, investments, anything like that, definitely feel free to contact them through there or through us. And again, thank you for all of our founders that pitched. Thank you, Jason, Nathan, and Whay. And then obviously everyone as well for your feedback too. So hope everyone, I think as Dan said, Friday Junior, hope everyone has a good rest of the week. And then, yeah, and then we will talk here soon. So enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.